So the thought is that there's lots of things we do in life to try to improve our well-being, and ones that are particularly well known are like taking care of your health, exercising physically, eating better, having a good diet, making sure you sleep. Yeah, sleep's really important. Um, have a purpose and hobbies and friends and community and have a sense of meaning in your life. And I think a lot of people would recognize that these things are important. And then another one that's becoming like really popular on the scene is taking care of your mental health in a way that's about psychologizing your experience. So therapy and understanding psychologically what you are as a human being and your life story, and integrating past experiences and healing trauma, these kind of things. A lot of people talk about how that's really necessary. And then there's this other category that I think most people don't actually know even exists, and is a way of tremendously increasing your well-being and reducing your suffering, that relates to meditation. That a lot of people think meditation actually falls into those other categories, about kind of like cleaning up your psychology, or just having a more concentrated mind, mindful mind, or it's like a hobby or something like this or something. There's an aspect to meditation that I think is not so well known. I mean, everything's kind of interrelated, but could be separated out. That's about understanding your phenomenology, the raw mechanics of experience, the raw mechanics of phenomenological appearances and disappearances, and radically reshaping how the mind just models itself. That has nothing to do with storytelling, nothing to do with, I say nothing, everything's related to some degree, but you could separate this out. It's not about meditating to de-stress or meditating to heal trauma or understand yourself psychologically as whatever your stories go into your memories. It's not about helping you sleep, not about decluttering your mind. It's just getting to the raw basic phenomenology of, okay, you have a sound and the sound appears, and what are the mechanistic qualities of this sound? That, okay, it appears and it disappears. It has this impermanence to it. It has this arising and passing to it. And if you really get into the sound, and the hearing is different from feeling, and I can pull that apart. That's a separate part of experience. And if I listen into that sound, the beginning and the ending are really vague. Okay, so it doesn't have these harsh, defined boundaries. But also in the height, the peak of the sound, there's no core to it as well. It's empty in this Buddhist sense. It's lacking a core. So it's lacking some kind of fundamental actuality to it. And this is hearing. Hearing is this vague thing. I can't quite pin it down. Even if I get super, super concentrated and I isolate it, it's this weird amorphous thing. And it has these other qualities of unsatisfactoriness and no-self, as well as the impermanence. And it doesn't matter what sound this is. It doesn't matter if it's the most beautiful sound in the world or a horrible sound. It doesn't matter if it's your mother saying, I love you. Whatever, all sounds has this quality. And then you move to the other senses. Feeling has these aspects to them as well. And the thinking and the seeing and all these things. And by just getting like raw data, really training your concentration skills and metacognition and attentional clarity, and how quickly you can notice phenomena appearing and disappearing, you just understand experience at a much rawer, just more updated, more upgraded fashion. And you start realizing what this is, what your life is, what experience is, and that there's certain things to notice, that there's no center to experience, actually. There's this suggested center. But if you look into that, you find, whoop, hang on, it's not actually there. There is actually no boundary to your experience. A lot of people think, okay, well, a lot of people have this sense that there's an inside and an outside to their mind. You like subjectively feel this quality. There's the world. And then when I close my eyes, now I'm like inside my head, inside my mind. And if you train these cognitive faculties, you look for that inside and outside, it's not there. And what's more is, there comes a certain point where you look for these things and you actually burst the delusion so that eventually the mind updates itself and it stops producing that sense of an inside and outside. It actually altogether stops producing the sense of a self or a sense of a center. Those things just disappear from experience. And this has nothing to do with storytelling, nothing to do with how you like live your life or whatever you're doing during the day. It's just the raw phenomenology is just totally understood to itself better and is retransformed. And this results in one of the most substantial reductions in suffering and increases in your baseline well-being out of anything you could do, really. And it's this kind of quite esoteric hidden side of meditation that I think hasn't hit the mainstream yet. They don't realize actually this is where the far end of meditation can take you. So that's kind of the general. Did you follow what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Have you heard this before? Or?
No, actually, it's a new concept. So the main, as I get it, the main achievement is to realize that there's no center itself, in a way that all your experiences don't gather, all the sensations don't gather in this center itself, but it's really very flowy, and you couldn't pinpoint where you hear, where you see.
Yeah.
But this increases your well-being
Massively.
But so, what's the conclusion of? Because what seemed kind of relevant to me is, or concluding as well, he said you stop having these borders to the outer world and your inner self or your own entity.
Yeah. Yes.
But what's the conclusion of it, except for enhancing your well-being? Is there any other broader way, like, because we still live our lives,
yes,
and we're like part of something, as much as we're like entities within these things we shape and are being shaped by. So, because you said, there's this psychologizing trend, and it is so, which takes the individual very much away from this part of shaping what you're into, kind of. As I see it, you know, what I mean? It kind of depoliticizes, and I see it's still part of it. Except for, is there any other conclusion that would be interesting for me? But this is a bit out of meditation talk.
No, I like it. The thing I can say for most certain though is that it just reduces your suffering day to day and increases your average level of well-being. Then when we start extrapolating beyond, okay, well, what else does this do? Then you start very easily sort of slipping into just anecdotal claims and claims that are less obvious, less justified, and then how does it change your behavior? And it's not obvious, and really we need like a lot more research on this, a lot more scientific research. Like, is there any tendencies that we can see that people who no longer have this sense of inside and outside, what do they share? What do they have in common? What do they do that's similar? It's not similar. A lot of research needs to be done. I mean, I will say, when you're suffering a hell of a lot less, it becomes easier to attend to the concerns of other people if you care in the first place. When you've dealt with more of your own shit, you're less in your own way, and you're just kind of more just available to pay attention to other people, and you don't have to worry about me so much. There's that aspect, but I don't think that's a guarantee, because you could get this and perhaps still be a psychopath and not care about other people. You might be suffering not so much, but it doesn't guarantee that you care about others necessarily. I think it does have many deeper implications of how you understand reality, basically. That the thing we can know most intimately about reality, about what this is experiential. Like, we're on the experiential side of things. You realize, this is what this world is way different than what I thought it was, than how I began on that journey, where I thought, like, there's a really hard world here, and that what I see is the same thing as what you see. And the fact that I'm even, like, seeing the objective you realize that all of this is a fabrication in your own mind, and you never get to peek outside of your mind. there's a lot of claims people say, well, yeah, meditation will make you more ethical. Unfortunately, it seems like that's not a guarantee, because there's a lot of really high attaining yogis and monks and stuff who, I mean, there's all kinds of sexual scandals you can read about with those people. And,
But realizing everything is empty, everything has no core, everything is unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
It actually improves your well-being.
Totally.
To explain why.
Because, okay, the unsatisfactory aspect of things is really the craving or the addiction to want to smoke a cigarette or do something or achieve anything is built on a myth that there's something I can do that will satisfy me, like satisfy me wholly. And people talk about having that like God-shaped hole inside of them. Do you know this kind of concept? People talk about having like a hole in their soul that they need to fill. And then, you know, sort of the tried example is people try to fill it with drugs and money and sex, and they're like, oh no, those things don't do it. What you need to do is you need to fill it with more healthy pursuits and purpose and stuff like that. And then people say like, well, no, even that kind of stuff doesn't do it. You need to fill it with religion and Jesus and God, and you know this idea of kind of filling that hole people talk about.
No, I just haven't heard this expression, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. And really, it's possible to deconstruct your experience in this really raw way that has nothing to do with psychology or nothing to do with blah, blah, blah. So these other aspects of caring about your health matter. You know, I'd still contend that being concerned about how we politically organize society matters. Your health matters. You know, not having trauma matters. And then there's this other aspect as well. It's possible to notice that there's no center, there's no hole there, and there's nothing that could possibly fulfill it. Because no sense experience or bundle of experiences are ever capable of amounting to a fully satisfying experience. You get this deeper and deeper and deeper. It's not even that things satisfy you for a little bit and then they wear off and like, oh, it's impermanent and now I need to do something again to like feel complete again. If you really, really pay attention, things don't satisfy even for a second. It's really built an illusion. There's a myth, like a unicorn that people are chasing, really expecting a kind of fulfillment always in the next moment. And once you really fundamentally understand what sense experience is made of, what this is, what sensations are, what all of this is, you realize, it's incapable of ever fulfilling me in that way. And this actually makes you drop the pursuit of satisfaction, but at the same time, the pursuit of satisfaction is the other side of the coin of dissatisfaction. And you drop that, and now you're no longer dissatisfied. You're not satisfied, but you're not dissatisfied. It actually collapses that duality, and you realize that this thing I think is possible, kind of full soul, full body satisfaction, is a myth. It is not possible. It's not possible to ever achieve it. It's a total myth. But I never wanted that in the first place, actually. What I really want is there's some feeling of dissatisfaction in me that I don't want to feel. And it's possible to get rid of that feeling of dissatisfaction. And that's all you ever wanted in the first place. And it feels good. So that was you talked about the unsatisfactoriness. The emptiness, seeing the emptiness of all things, incredibly reduces your suffering, because the reason why the world is kind of painful and hurts us is because we perceive it as they're these hard objects kind of knocking against us and these hard things. And it's one thing to notice that your thoughts are not really real in the way you thought they were. It's like you're imagining I have to do this thing in a couple hours and I'm scared of doing this thing. You're totally lost in the thought and you're believing it to be really real. And there's a way you can come out of that and realize, oh, that's just a thought. I'm actually worrying. This thing I'm worried about isn't even here. It's just a thought. That move there, you get that move, right? Recognize, oh, it's just a thought, actually. Calm down, like, just a thought. That same move extends all the way through experience. So you get to the point where, okay, you do that for thoughts, but you can do that even for sensations and stuff and worries that are right here. That, oh, I've got this physical body. You can deconstruct that in experience and realize, oh, this sense that I have this hard physical body is an empty construction, actually, in the mind. That everything is an empty construction. It has this hollowness, and really your experience just becomes way lighter, way flowier. There's also this, I've got this hypothesis that I have to introduce a term called amodal perception. Do you know what amodal perception is? Probably not. So amodal perception is, you can perceive the palm of my hand. You can't actually perceive the back of my hand right now. Like, it's just not an experience for you, right? You can't see it. Your mind fills in the gaps. Your mind is heavily inferring that there is a back of my hand. So that when I show you, you're not surprised. You're like, yeah, that's what I was expecting. That was there. In some way, the way you're perceiving is, despite the back of the hand not actually being in direct view for you, you were experiencing it the whole time in some way. You weren't expecting there to be an elephant behind. You weren't expecting there to be nothing. A lot of our experience is amodal perception this way, that we don't directly experience it, but the mind is filling in the gaps. But this ends up creating a much more concrete world than is if you get really, really in touch with direct experience. For example, you see the park here. Again, if you can unbind seeing from thinking and other perception, this visual field has no weight to it. But your mind is heavily inferring that the ground is hard. There's a heavy world here, a thick, heavy world, and the ground goes deep. And that if you were to walk on that grass, you'd feel its hardness. But if you can really detach seeing from all the other senses, this visual field is as thin as air. It's super light. It has no weight to it. Do you get that thought? And then you start doing that for everything, and your world just becomes super light. There's this down-regulation in amodal perception. And you can, like, permanently lock this in, and it just, day to day then, you're just suffering less. There's less contraction in your body, you're holding less stress, because you're taking things less seriously. But it also seems to be, if this is done well, this doesn't detract from your ability to function in the world. Like, actually, you can still really function in the world. You're not walking into walls or scared to walk on the grass because you think you'll fall through or any of that stuff. So, but then you just kind of exist. Your mind has just found a new, more like optimal medium of less fabrication, but still being able to function in the world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's really about sobering up, like letting go of the chase of satisfaction. Because I feel like with every dissatisfaction, it kind of boosts your potential to be satisfied on the next occasion. You know what I mean? Because the lower you can go emotionally, the higher you can go emotionally as well.
I actually don't think it's symmetrical that way. I think you can have mania, where people go like really high and really low. I think the optimistic thing about this is I think it is actually quite possible to curate your mind in a way that you actually get rid of a lot of the negative emotions, and you're still left with a lot of the high positive emotions, fortunately. I actually think that's the case. Yeah.
How would you like through meditation?
Again, just through this process of observation, you wouldn't. Yeah, like what are the other consequences? You can just feel better, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't think, why is just paying attention to raw experience? Why would it have this other effect of making me happy? Actually, making the highs higher and the lows less low. But it does. It actually does. It's because you find out there's a lot less to be worried about, a lot less to be stressed about. You understand what stress is, and when you understand what stress is at a visceral level, that it is a contraction of mental object, and you become sensitive to the body and these contractions, you begin to notice them, and just let them go. Just drop that, let that go. I don't need to hold on to that. And people build stress because they don't realize they're holding on to it, and it's just accruing and accruing and accruing. And also they don't know, even if they become aware of it, they don't know how to let it go. meditation teaches this process. Pay attention often to your body and where you're tensing, and let go. And you learn how to let go. And you learn how to let go not just in the body, but let go like mentally at subtle levels. And you begin to learn how to manually let go of even the contraction of the sense of space and time. So then you can get into these states where space and time just disappear. They can't be held up in the mind. You've sifted through to such a subtle level that those unbind, they break apart, and then experience turns off. Go unconscious for like a fraction of a second. There's this like blip, and it feels like this total reset of the brain. Like this, boop. Oh, yeah.
That's stream entry.
Stream entry is when you do that for the first time.
How is it called?
Stream entry.
Stream entry.
So this is going off of in Theravada Buddhism. They've got this 4-path model of enlightenment, and stream entry is the first of the 4 paths, and it's a moment where you have that like blackout for the first time. You like consciously recognize that blackout, and then everything shuts off and then reboots, and then when it reboots, it's not quite the same, and then it's not the same for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Yeah, but this thing, stream entry is really possible. It's really doable. Like a lot of people can get stream entry.
With meditation.
Yeah, it's like a really achievable goal. Yeah.
But stream entry, like what changes after you enter the stream?
After you enter the stream, yeah. People kind of... It's also a bit of a loose term, like people don't agree about what changes. But,
I mean, I guess the experiences are different.
yeah, it's like you've crossed some threshold level of insight into emptiness and no-self. It's maybe not full, but a couple things happen. You kind of understand a bit better that there's a way in which a lot of people, they walk around in life, they really feel like they are agents, like they have free will, that they control their actions and their body, and they're doing things. And this puts a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself, because it's like, if I don't do it, then it's not going to happen, and so it's, fuck, I need to always be doing. That sense of agency starts disappearing, and you realize that there is no person in the middle controlling the machine here. This just happens, things just happen on its own. The universe is just, you can't stop this, like this is just happening. It will, the body, this being will react to things. So you have this weakened sense of agency, and it comes with a lot of relief. You're like, there were so many things in life I thought I had to control and hold on to, and you realize, I don't actually have to. Like that will just do itself. So stream entry comes with a reduction in the sense of agency, a reduction in the sense of self. For me, it was that sense of the inside and the outside, that disappearing. I gained this ability to go into the witness, which is this dissociated, detached state of mind, where I kind of made this distinction between, there's like everything to be aware of, and then awareness as this separate thing. I actually don't want to give you this view, because this is a wrong view, actually. But this is what happened for me. And I was like, I'm not my thoughts. I'm aware of my thoughts. And so suddenly it felt like there was this big field of awareness back here. That's just this passive observer witnessing things arise and pass, arise and pass. That's a wrong perspective that you can get rid of as well.
It's kind of very specific to you.
It's hard to get specific on, but there does seem to be some kind of threshold phenomena that happens to people. And not everyone, like, for me it was a sudden moment. Like I can remember the exact moment it happened. I was in a philosophy class. I asked my philosophy professor a question, and then suddenly the whole world like blacked out and then came back in a fraction of a second. And that was a very obvious before and after moment in my life. That after that, there was just suddenly like all this spaciousness and increased level of well-being, reduction in suffering, loss of the sense of agency and no inside and outside, and that was a before and after. For other people, they don't have such a specific moment, it's more gradual for them, but they can kind of look back and realize, yeah, it's different now. I'm not still perceiving myself as like this freewheeling hard agent body, but yeah, it's just a point I wanted to kind of make about why meditate. This is the real fruit of meditation. Like, this is the real kind of the deeper reason. Like, this is the journey that will have the biggest impact on the way you suffer. And because it's so fundamental to existence and it's independent of location, situation, context, experience. It doesn't matter what room you're in, where you are, what you're doing. You understand intimately the core mechanics of what makes up experience: seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, thinking. And they're all impermanent, not self, boundaryless, and it just becomes your whole life. It just becomes, this is everything. This is everything. This is everything. There's no exception. And